Hi there, and welcome to I'll Knit If I Want To. I'm Andrea Mowry of Andrea Renee Knits. I almost didn't hit record again. I tapped it and I didn't tap it well enough because it wasn't recording, but I caught it right away this time. So woohoo! Small victories on this lovely Friday. So today I am wearing my DRK Everyday sweater. And I am wearing it with my Wildwood shawl. I love this little shawl, and I feel like it's kind of one of the unsung heroes of my shawl patterns. It's named after the first bakery I ever worked at, which was in Austin, Texas, and it just happened to be a gluten-free bakery, and I worked there before I was gluten-free or knew I had celiac. So I feel like it set me up for success for later in life when I realized, oh, I can't eat gluten. So this is the shawl. It has short row stripes, which I love, and it's just some garter stitch and feather and fan lace, 3 colors. It uses Chasing Rabbit Fiber Co., which is a Texas-based yarn dyer, and I just love it. It's just a sweet little shawl. So anyways, the Wildwood shawl. And my DRK Everyday sweater, which is Montana Mountain Wool Company. This yarn is one of my all-time favorite yarns. It is a little marled. I am really into marls lately, as you'll find out by today's pattern release. So yay, we have a pattern release today. I just released the Bear Paw socks, which is a collaboration with Candace from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers. And these are this year's sock pattern for my annual Fall Knit Along Challenge. That's in like 2 weeks. And that is it's about a 4-day challenge. Let's see, we cast on Wednesday night. So it starts November 23rd after 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can cast on, and then you have until noon on Monday. So it's basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but you get a little bit of time Wednesday night and Monday morning. So if you post a picture by Monday afternoon, by noon, then you're entered to win a prize. But it's just really fun. We do it every spring and fall. Spring we do hats, fall we do socks, and this is the 5th one. So I'll show you the new socks. These are the Bear Paw socks. They would be cuter, wouldn't they, if I put them on my little thing so you can see their shape. For some reason I have the DuckTales song. Whoop! Don't worry, no coffee spilled. The DuckTales song in my head, you know, they're like, na, 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 DuckTales, woo. I don't know why. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, but it's in my head. So there you go. Anyways, here we are. Now look how pretty they look. So these might look a little familiar. These might look similar to the DRK Everyday socks, and that's because they are similar. One of the most frequent requests I have gotten in the past couple years since I released the DRK Everyday socks, which is a fingering weight ribbed sock that looks real similar to this, is that pattern be in DK. I get it all the time. So when I was chatting with Candace about this collaboration, she has this amazing yarn base, which is also named Bear Paw, hence the name of the socks. And she shares the story of how they came up with that name. It's named after a mountain range near where Candace lives. And I'm going to share that info in my newsletter as well, which you would have gotten this morning if you are a newsletter subscriber, but I digress. So when we were chatting about yarn, she was like, oh, I could dye up some new colors. And I loved this. Hopefully you can see it looks a little gray, but this is actually kind of like it's over dyed over a gray base yarn. And it is more of like a turquoisey soft gray blue, and then this is like a clay, like a terracotta. So I was just trying to remember the colorway names off the top of my head, but I'm not gonna be able to remember. darn, they're listed on the pattern page. But anyway, so she sent me a skein of each and I was like, ooh, I really want to use these together. And again, I have just been on a marled kick lately. I have been holding a lot of strands of yarn together to knit and it's been so fun. So I was like, I get so many requests for DK weight, DRK everyday socks. So I marled these and added some fun stripes and then just a color blocked heel, top of the fleegle heel, and toe. These are worked toe up. But I then was like, Andrea, why do you always complicate things? They just wanted DK weight socks and now you're making a marl, 2 colors together with these little stripes and everything. So I was like, hey, Candace, do you have any DK weight yarn that would be good for socks? Because that's the thing is I know a lot of people do like a little bit of nylon or something in if they're going to use a DK weight yarn to help add strength to socks because after all that knitting they don't want to walk a hole in them too quick. So she just happens to also have this new amazing bear paw. Back to this yarn real quick. So they used this for their sock squad, which is a super fun sock club subscription, like yarn box deal that they do. And so that's the only time that they've ever had this yarn, but it is so amazing. I think it's my new favorite sock yarn that they decided to make it part of their permanent line. So it has merino and yak. I think, okay, don't quote me on this, but you know, check for yourself, go to their website. All the details will be there, but I'm pretty sure that the sock one is merino, yak, and nylon. And then the DK weight is merino, yak, and silk. And that silk is what's gonna really help add some strength. It also, they are so soft. Yak is really great because it's really strong and soft and it doesn't pill nearly as much as just like a merino or MCN or something like that might pill. So anyways, I did knit them up in just DK as well. So if you're like, I don't want to hold 2 strands together, I don't want to marl and do stripes and all that jazz, I just want to knit a pair of like DK weight socks for everyone in my family, I got you covered there. So that is my 1 color DK weight one. And it is, if memory serves, really should just have like my pattern out in front of me, but I don't. I believe I did 11 sizes again. So you can really knit them from for the whole family, basically from baby through adult large feet. So anyways, I hope that y'all love it. I hope you'll join the knit along. It's really fun. We have people who've been doing it every year since it started. And yeah, it's just a really great time. So we'd love to have you. We made sure to launch the pattern early this year so you'd have plenty of time to snack some yarn if you want to try out Candace's new yarn. Again, it's incredible. I'm really excited to see how it wears over time. I think I'm even going to knit up a pair of regular DRK everyday with a single strand of her fingering weight sock yarn. I might be able to make with my leftovers like 1 of each color, which I don't mind. You gotta use up that yarn. So you can probably hear my voice. I have been not feeling so great for the past couple weeks. So I am trying to feel better. But let's answer some knitting questions. I think my voice will hold on. I do have my coffee and y'all had some great questions this week. By the way, I will link everything below. I also thought it would be fun since I don't think I've ever done this before, but I just appreciate y'all so much. This is really one of the highlights of my week is getting to do these little videos. And I think I mentioned in a previous one, I was really blown away by how many of you that watch came up to me at Rhinebeck and said you watched. Like, I just didn't know. Like, I don't know. I hope people watch this and enjoy it. But it just was such a treat. So I wanted to treat you. So you can get 10% off of Bear Paw, the sock pattern, or my DRK everyday socks with the, I'm going to make it real easy so that you don't even have to look below. You just use the discount code SOCK, all caps, SOCK. And you can do that either at Ravelry or my website. And that will be through Sunday, what's today, the 11th? So Sunday the 13th at midnight, Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to save 10% on my new pattern or its sister pattern, the fingering weight version, that is not marled, but it's my go-to pattern. So yeah, you can save on either of those. And just thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me. Okay, let's answer some questions. All right. Hi, Andrea. Hello. I was fascinated by your tip to decrease the number of stitches in the body of a top-down sweater by 20% on the last row before beginning ribbing to cinch in the waist while eliminating puffing. I have a companion question. So that was a question from, I think it was just last week. Might have been 2 weeks ago. It's either last week or the week before. What if you want a boxy sweater to retain its boxiness after you start the ribbing? I often feel like deep ribbing 3 inches or so. I often like deep ribbing 3 inches or so, but I don't want it to pull in on a boxy sweater. Is there a way to accomplish this short of aggressive blocking? So to be honest, in my personal experience, I have never had that be an issue. And I also have done some pretty deep ribbing on a number of my sweaters. And I just find that ribbing, once it's blocked, it opens up. So, you know, as you're knitting it, it might really pull in. You can kind of see the bottom of my sweater here. But once it's blocked, it'll just kind of open up and lay flat, and I really don't think it'll pull in too much. And I do like on a boxy sweater, I actually prefer, sometimes I'll even go down like an extra needle size for the ribbing, because what can happen over time and as you're wearing that sweater is it can actually kind of flare out. So it's nice to have that ribbing stay structured and straight with the sweater. So I would really just knit it per the usual, and I don't think you'll have a problem. So that, at least that's been my experience. And blocking is definitely a way to do it. You can use pins to block it. The only time you might have like a little bit of it tucking in is if you're doing a split hem, and just right where it's split, that's where it has trouble staying open. But if it's all connected around the whole base of your sweater, I really don't think you'll have a problem. All right, I noticed your newest pattern, Trying Again, mixes Trine and Dream State yarns. One is non-superwash, that's the Trine, and the other is superwash, that's Dream State. How should it be blocked if one stretches and one does not? I understand steaming is a good solution, but what if it actually needs to be cleaned with a soak? Is that possible, or will it make it misshapen? So this is a fantastic question. So per those specific yarns and that specific sweater, you're not gonna have any problems. You can just wet block as you always would. They both block out really similarly. The thing with spin cycle yarns is they have a really tight ply. There's a lot of twist in there. And so even their superwash yarns, which is dyed in the wool and Dream State, I find that they don't tend to lose their elasticity and bounce back nearly as much as other drapier superwash yarns, especially like a merino cashmere or something like that. A lot of those just don't really have their bounce back, where I haven't really had that issue happening in Spin Cycles yarns. And also in Trying Again, Dream State is your accent color. It's the mosaic color work. And I have found with mixing yarns, I've just never had an issue when it comes to like when one's used for color work or something like that. And I do recommend, I love that the Trying Again, it's a big heavy sweater, you know, it's more of like a jacket style sweater. So I do think having a non-superwash for the main color like I did is really nice for stability since it's a heavier sweater. But there was absolutely no issues. Now, let's say you're doing something where maybe it is bigger stripes or color blocking, maybe a really big shawl collar, something like that, that you're using a superwash and a non-superwash. There, I would just make big swatches of each and really feel how those fabrics are. Take measurements pre and post blocking so you know exactly what to expect, just in case you do need to do anything special with your blocking. But in my 20 plus years of knitting, I've never run into it. I've never had a problem. So I think you'll be okay. But let me know if you ever have an experience that differs from that, or if anybody else watching has, so that we can all learn from each other. But I definitely think when it comes to like color work and stuff like that, you're gonna be fine. Okay. Oh, I love this one. I'm just gonna take another quick sip of my bevy. Okay, so this one is just for fun. If you could only choose one of your designs to knit from here on out, which one would it be? Would you go for something more practical for everyday wear, or choose one because you enjoy the process? So that is a great question. Two immediately popped into my mind, probably because I've knit both of them quite a bit. But it's really hard. I wish that I could pick one in each category. Like my one hat pattern, sweater, shawl, sock, you know, mitten, cardigan. So if I absolutely could only pick one, the first one that popped into my head was actually my DRK everyday socks, because I've knit so many of them, but I don't think I could knit socks and only socks for the rest of my life. I mean, maybe I could, but I would miss knitting the other things. So that one popped into my head was actually the DRK everyday sweater, because it would be really easy to riff on it. You know, if this was the only pattern, but I could use any yarn I wanted, I could get really playful using this as a canvas to then do lots of different sweaters. So I think I would have to go with the DRK everyday sweater. But that was really fun. I liked doing a just for fun question. If anybody else has just for fun, kind of like ask me anything questions, feel free to send those in, 'cause that was fun. Okay. So I was knitting your striped sweater this summer, and I hurried finishing it so that I could take it on a trip with me to California. It ended up much more cropped than I would normally wear, and I am looking for it to be a bit more versatile in my wardrobe beyond a layering piece. I've seen a couple of different methods of lengthening sweaters, and I am curious to know which one you prefer. I'm a fairly new knitter and have never cut into my knitting, but I'm cautiously optimistic that I'm ready for that adventure. Any advice you might have would be so greatly appreciated. So you are in great luck, because stripes is a top-down sweater, and so you can absolutely, you don't even really have to cut into it. If you can find where you wove in your end for your bind off on that hem, you're just gonna pluck that out, under your bind off, and then just unravel the hem. Once your hem's unraveled, once I get to like the row or two before like the end of that hem, that's when I would start putting it back on your needles. And then I would undo one more extra row, and that extra row, you're just undoing it stitch by stitch on the needles. And that's a nice way to do it, because then you know everything's back on the needle. And then I would just knit, adding stripes until it's the length that you would like it. And then, or, you know, minus the length of the hem, because you'll add the hem back on. So then just add the hem back on, and that's what I would do. So you don't have to like cut into the body of the sweater or anything like that. But good luck. It's really fun. It's really great to go back. If there's a project you just don't feel like is totally perfect, so often we can go back and tweak, and then we're going to wear it so much more. So I always like to pay attention to those things. Like, what am I always grabbing out of my closet? What length of sweater, when I put it on, I always feel confident and comfortable, and I'm not tugging on things, you know, like I really like to pay attention to those things so that I can continue to make things that will really benefit me and get used. All right. Okay, this is the last question already. I am an experienced knitter who is newer to brioche. I usually always go down a needle size or even 2 for projects, as I'm a loose knitter. I am attempting your Brioche-alicious shawl, and my question is, should I change needle size from the garter section to the brioche, or just use a smaller needle? I'm on a 3 throughout. I have trouble usually with the brioche looking a bit sloppy. So there's one more little question here, but first I'm going to answer the first one. In general, all of us will knit brioche looser than our typical fabric. And that's because of all those little yarn over shawls we do and all those little slip stitches. So I always recommend sizing down when you're knitting brioche. So especially if you are a looser knitter. Now, in general, you should have a really similar gauge to brioche and garter stitch. Usually the stitch gauge will match. But if you are feeling like the brioche looks a lot looser, you can absolutely go down a needle size for those garter sections. Just pay attention to your gauge so that you're still going to achieve the size shawl that you would like. That's one thing I would just keep in the back of your head to maybe check. And also they would like to know if there's any videos you would recommend on fixing brioche mistakes. I find brioche not complicated to do, but difficult to fix. And that is the trickier part of brioche. I agree. It can be really intimidating to tink back in brioche, especially until we've really learned that anatomy. So one of the best tips I can give you is to put a lifeline in. Y'all have heard me say this a lot, but especially when you're getting into that shawl, and especially once you're towards the end of the shawl and there's 300 plus stitches, having a lifeline in there means that if you make a mistake, you can try to fix it. But if it doesn't work out, you can then drop down to the lifeline and you're not wasting a whole lot of time and you don't have to be scared to like undo things. As far as videos for fixing brioche mistakes, I do know that Matt Akers did a brioche mistake class on School of Sweet Georgia. So you could check that out. You can also just Google it. And then if you want to just be able to see how to tink back, most of my increasing and decreasing brioche videos show how to undo like an increase or decrease as you come across it if you need to undo it. But not necessarily dropping down. So, but yeah, you can also just Google it. But having that lifeline in there will really help give you the confidence and just like, you don't have to worry that if you can't fix the mistake, you already have that lifeline in there for security reasons. So it's like your insurance policy. Okay, so I guess that's it. I showed you the socks. They are available on Ravelry and my website. Again, use the discount code SOCK, all capitals, SOCK, until this Sunday, November 13th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. If you want a little 10% discount on both Bear Paw socks or the DRK Everyday socks. And we would love to have you join the knit along. I'm going to put a link to the forum below as well. And I think that's it. You can also participate on Instagram by using the hashtag, which I'm trying to remember right now. I think it's, I might even have it on here now that we're done with questions. Just a minute, please. Okay. Yay. Bear Paw Knit Along Challenge is going to be the hashtag for Instagram. So you can also follow along there. And if you didn't know, you can actually follow hashtags on Instagram, not just people. So that's kind of cool too. I always love to follow Knit Along hashtags, or I'll even do it for like sewing patterns because that's just like constant inspiration. So that could be, or knitting patterns, obviously. So that can be really fun. And again, just to reiterate, the challenge aspect of the knit along is just for fun. A lot of us like to challenge ourselves to try and finish a project in a few days. But if that just stresses you out, you do not have to do the challenge aspect. You can just jump in, make friends, and knit and enjoy each other's company. All right, well, I guess that's everything. I am gonna give my voice a little break and get back to work. So I hope y'all have a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you over in the knit along, and I hope to see you back here next week. Happy knitting.